What's up, guys? This is Mike DiCarlo with Mike Podcast. This is episode 2. I'm so happy to have my friend and sort of a mentor and leader to me. He's the leader of our group here at Human Element, which is our brokerage. I'm so pleased to introduce Eric Crumbaker.
Dude, what's up?
How you doing?
I'm great. Happy to be here. This is exciting.
Yeah, I've been wanting to interview you for a long time and pick your brain on how you built such a cool culture here. As I'm going through my flipping company and trying to build something out, I've been wanting to see how, and pick your brain on how you did it.
Yeah.
And how you created a culture where it's kind of like this intangible thing, but maybe, through this interview, you could shed more light to our viewers to how you did it and like what kind of steps you went through and kind of your journey.
Man, super excited to be here. Thanks for having me on. Looking forward to talking about, the wins and losses and the concept and why we did what we did and how we got there and, all the hardships. And this is exciting. It's nice to, I always interview other people about what they're doing. And this is kind of a not bittersweet. This is like a super sweet feeling for someone to actually have interest in what we're doing. So this is amazing.
First of all, why don't you tell everyone about yourself, what you do, and then tell everyone kind of how you got started in real estate and when did you want to know that you wanted to open up your own brokerage?
Okay, I'm gonna have you walk me through those 3 questions as they go through. What was the first one?
How did you get started in real estate?
How did I get started in real estate? I got started in real estate on accident. I was actually, it was in 2009, and my parents have always been in real estate. Let me throw that out there to begin with. And before my parents, my grandparents, but I never wanted to be in real estate. I never wanted to follow my parents' footsteps for some weird reason. Right. I wanted to forge my own path. And it was in 2009, the economy was obviously in a ditch, and I was working at a bar, and I came home, or I went to have lunch with my mom, or I went in her office. It was a very similar situation. And when you're a child and you see your parents and they're as big as life, like they're like kings and queens in your world, like they're just such big icons. So I walked in, and I've always saw my mom at a certain level, and I knew she's always worked at a certain level. And when I walked in, it was in the worst part of the economy, and I didn't realize how hard it hit her.
Right.
And she told me, she said, "Eric, if I can do 1 deal a month, I can stay alive." And I started crying. Yeah. Like I was sitting there with my mom just crying because it hurt my soul so much to see my mom in such pain. And I looked at her and I was like, "Hey, how about I get into real estate?" She's like, "No, you do not want to get into this business. It's not the business for you." And I said, "No, let me get into real estate." And she said, "No, I think this is not smart." And I said, "Hey, if this is the worst time, you only can do 1 deal. I don't need you to pay me anything. I'll be your transaction coordinator. Or I want to work for you." She said, "What's open is you can be a transaction coordinator, and this is how I can pay you because I can't just pay you salary." And I said, "I'll take the position." I quit what I was doing and started working for her. And then, things just kind of spiraled being her transaction coordinator. And I can get into the details of how it really kind of spiraled from there, but that's how I got into real estate.
Yeah. Wow. You started as a transaction coordinator.
And I was a terrible one at that. I mean, it was probably like 4 or 5 months before I probably got fired from that position. I'm not good at following all these little things you have to do.
You're more of a creative,
correct,
and a visionary, more so than follow the rules kind of guy and have your documents in an order kind of guy. At least that's the impression I get.
That's exactly what it is. But I had to really dive down to help her at that time. So I had to pivot what I thought I was good at to try to help her overcome. So it worked out for the time being. I realized how hard it is at that time it could be if you wanted to be a transaction coordinator on a mass scale, but different business.
Yeah. That's a totally different business. I guess the next question would be, when did you feel like, you had to start your own brokerage or you wanted to? What was the defining moment to where you were like, you know what, this isn't working for me anymore, or I want to be an entrepreneur, or I want to start my own thing? Because that is something that a lot of people have difficulty with when you're in a system that's working, and you guys, you and your entire family have been successful in real estate for a long time. So I feel like it is a risk to start your own brokerage versus just, doing the realtor thing, getting commission checks, doing very well, being in the top % of realtors, to now switching over and being like, oh, we're going to run a business around a brokerage. And those are, in my opinion, 2 very different things. So What do you think was the starting point of that, and what pushed you to really be like, now's the time?
I'm gonna have to rewind a little bit because it was back in 2009 and 10. After being a transaction coordinator for my parents, I was sitting in the office, and my title reps came in one afternoon, and they actually threw a Tom Ferry ticket to his summit down in Fullerton on my desk. And I looked up at them and I was like, what is this?
Right.
And she's like, no, it's a ticket to Tom Ferry. He's a real estate coach. He's a life coach. And I looked up and I was like, I don't need any of this. Like, I'm a transaction coordinator. Like, who do you think I am? And she's like, no, there's so much more for you. Like, we come in the office and we're friends with your parents for a long time. And we think this is what you need to go forward. And I was like, I'm still hesitant. And she said, Eric, this isn't asking. We bought this ticket for you. You're going. It's next week.
Oh, that's cool.
So I remember pulling up to this place and, making a left into the parking structure. And Mike, I was in my Jeep Cherokee, like 1998, like hand me down from 4 generations, and every car in front of me and behind me was a Mercedes or a BMW or a Lexus. Everything was black. I remember pulling in, and I was just totally out of my comfort zone, out of water. And so naturally and organically, I walk into this event, and where do I sit? The very last fucking seat that you could sit in, because I was already uncomfortable. So I sit there, and Tom's talking. This guy, this like magical figure comes out, and he just starts talking about all the things I wanted, all the things I thought were possible that everyone told me over the last year or so into this real estate game, they told me what was just not possible. And then I walk into this environment, and it's just everything was possible. And like, I got emotional sitting there, and I was just thinking things could be so much bigger.
Yeah.
So that's when, I walked up, and Tom and I became friends. This is before he was famous, before he was who he was now, or who he is now. And it got into coaching. And that was when teams didn't even exist in real estate. And I didn't know I wanted to start a brokerage at this time. I was still so new in the game, but I wanted a team. I knew if we were going to take market share and we were going to start in this new economy of real estate that I knew was going to turn around around 2012 and 2013, we needed to have a group of individuals that were all fighting the same battle. So I started putting a real estate team together and running what it felt like a mini brokerage, because I was very convincing back in my day to our broker, where I told him we needed our own space, we needed this, that, and the other. And he was very accommodating, because at that time, real estate wasn't doing good, and Shar was the top agent. So I was able to leverage her notoriety into the brokerage, and we got our own spot, and we ended up having a team. And in 2016, running expenses and running a team is really hard. I actually don't feel that I understand real estate is this new team environment, but it's not the team environment I think people really think it is. I think team environments are really financially high when it comes to what you have to put out versus what you get back. Mm-hmm. With the training and experience, it doesn't really work out, I don't think, to make a real estate team. I think there's another formula that we won't get into it today. And in 2016, the team collapsed. I had, I think, 17 to 24 people in this office, and in 1 week, everyone vanished. It turned into 3 people, and that was the first time I realized that, oh my gosh, maybe a team environment is not really what works going forward. So I literally took almost a year off, Mike. I didn't do anything from 2016 to 2017. I let my wounds heal. I was so sad. I was so hurt. My cousin worked for me. He left me. We just didn't get along. Maybe I was too hard. I wasn't the best leader at the time either. I was more of a dictator. Right. And I told people what we wanted, and I didn't care. And if they didn't hit the minimum standards, you'd hear it from me. And, I had to change who I was. What I've realized in real estate is that real estate has this vibe. It's got this culture of 2001 bank mentality, where everything's neon lights, everything's in cubicles. You wear a suit to work, and you knock on doors, and that it's just so old school. It's just so archaic. Yeah. And in 2016, 2017, even before that, I just knew there was something different. So when I had a chance to start the brokerage based on losing the team, I realized that it's not team agents I'm looking for. I wanted to surround myself with top quality agents, people that were just so above the norm in our marketplace. And I thought to myself, if I can bring all these top people together under one roof, I think they could probably even grow further outside of their zones, because what we know in real estate is there's only one top agent per brokerage.
Yep.
And nobody ever wants to be at the top alone. That sucks. I mean, there's no one to beat. You're just smashing on people. So I brought more people that were like-minded who did high level under one roof. And that is the basic reason of why I wanted to create a brokerage. I wanted to get together top individuals that can produce at a high level and not have to be babied on like teams. You don't have to always look after a team and pick up after a team and always try to figure out their problems, as opposed to if you're bringing top quality people like me together, we're not figuring out small problems. We're working out really high level, strategies to overcome can break through our ceiling. So, I mean, I know I kind of went off topic just a little bit, but that's the primary focus or reason why I created a brokerage.
That's amazing. And I wanted to shout out Stacy real quick because Stacy's a sister that is a top agent at the brokerage as well.
Yeah.
And her and my brother Mario have been friends forever. So that's how I got actually introduced to Human Element. And me and my wife were looking for a home in Claremont, and Stacy had the listing. It was on Oak Hollow, which was my dad's street that he grew up on.
Okay.
So her Oak Hollow listing, I went to see her, ended up, we didn't like the house enough, but she goes, Mike, I've been seeing what you're doing in your flipping, and you really need to meet Eric. You need to come.
Interesting. I didn't even know the story.
Yeah, you need to come and meet Eric. So she pitched me in a normal course of business. I was like, oh, this listing's from Stacy. We'll have it in. Let's go see it. Let's go see it. I'll tell Mario to call her.
Yep.
We'll try to put a deal together. And it ended up being one of these happenstance things that changed my life forever. Kind of talk about your Tom Ferry experience. I went to, just before I joined your brokerage, the Ryan Pineda WealthCon.
Yeah, in Vegas, right?
In Vegas. And that was in January of this year. And I just knew after that, seeing the high level talent that was there and all these people making all these major moves and working collaboratively instead of separately, which is always the old way of doing business is, to keep your trade secrets, right? Or to keep everyone away. And at my old brokerage, that's how it was. I barely went into the office. Yeah. There was no one there. It was basically everyone for their own self.
Correct. I would go in.
It was dog eat dog. And, I did business there, and, I ran my paperwork through there, but I wasn't able to, speak with people, get advice and kind of collaborate with people, and so when Stacy brought me in and I met with you, the first thing I noticed was how cool the office was, right?
Yeah.
If you haven't seen this office before, it's super cool. So you need to check it out. It's all open concept, concrete floors, wood beams, bar in the back. Obviously this podcast room that we're in today. And so the first thing after I came back from Ryan Pineda was meeting with you. That was my first order of business.
I remember.
And then I signed up that day.
Mm-hmm.
Just because of how I felt. You've created that feeling that, high level people want to be here and work together. And when I came in, the office was bustling. People were talking to each other. All the deals were on the board, ringing bells, all this cool stuff that I didn't have at the last brokerage I was at. So kudos to you for creating a culture that attracts top talent. And I'm just so happy that I'm aboard with you guys, because it really changed my life and obviously got me more involved with social and now doing podcasts.
I was just going to say that.
I never had gotten a deal from my old brokerage. And then within, I think the first month, Shar had already sent me a deal that she's like, hey, this thing is a fixer. It's perfect for our investor that's in the brokerage. And we did the deal. She was able to list it. So everyone worked together on that one and got paid from it. So it just blew me away. So I just wanted to give you some kudos on that.
I really do appreciate that. And, this is what I've noticed. You just said, from the moment you walked in here, I tried to create this environment that you thought was for high level. And, when you are like yourself, when you work at a high level environment, and I consider us, we were the top of our game prior to opening this brokerage and prior to owning the team. We had one of the best teams before we formed the brokerage. Before the brokerage, I helped Shar, really facilitate her grab upon this local market before we created the team. And so we know what it's like to be a top level producer at a brokerage. So that allowed us to, when we created this environment, I know what top producers want.
Yeah.
You know, like I know what they're
you're
thinking
in
about.
tune.
I know all the pitfalls that they've gone through, and I know all the, you know, the wins and losses that they can potentially, you know, figure out or, you know, hit going in the future. So that was something that I was able to lean into and leverage, knowing that when I created this brokerage, I know pretty much for the most part what a top agent really needs to get to the next level.
Yeah.
So when I can show that to them, you know, what we're able to do and how we can help them, it makes the conversation a lot easier, because like you said, your other brokerage, everyone's keeping to themselves. No one wants to use their trade secrets to allow other people to grow. And that's one of our proprietary secrets, I think, in our own brokerage, that we're all going back and forth with our trade secrets and our philosophies and listing presentations and filming, and not just the podcasting, like, because podcasting and filming is one thing, but the back end of your social media, completely two different conversations. Like, you could film for 5 years in a row, but if you're not actually using the material in the right way on the back end, you know, that's I feel like it takes years just for that to happen. So it makes me feel good, and you know, it just, this is what the brokerage is. You know, this is the mentality of it. It's more of a lifestyle where you can do whatever you want to do at a high level. You just get to choose what you want to do.
Yeah. And real estate and business in general and making money is not a zero-sum game.
No, it's not.
No. And that's like the lessons I've been learning. And like, you know, you grow up and you watch the older generation where they kept everything to themselves, and their trade secrets were how they made money, and they kept those so secret.
Yeah.
But really, the life is of abundance, and there's so much money out there. Everyone can win and make money, and it's not this thing where you win, I lose kind of deal. And
we can both win.
That's been a mindset switch for me, specifically since joining here. But you know, over the course of the last few years, is that everyone can win and do things, and the people, the top 1% and the highest level people, are working together.
Yes, they are.
They're not fighting each other.
And that's the beautiful thing about it. It really is, because back in like 1998, 2005, like that's how it was.
Yeah.
I mean, it still kind of is. You know, the older generation
It's still there, by the way, yes.
Yes. I mean, it's very interesting. But it's nice to be in an environment that you kind of shield yourself away from all that.
Yeah.
You know, because real estate sucks.
Yeah, it's hard.
It is hard.
It's very hard.
It is hard. I mean, what was his name? Darren Hardy said in one of his conferences I went to a long time ago, and I still live to this day about it, and a lot of people think I'm weird saying it, but 95% of real estate sucks.
Yeah.
It's just that simple. But the 5% that's amazing, it is so amazing that the other 95% doesn't even matter. Yeah. But you just have to realize 95% of it sucks.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Like the 95% of what I do in flipping and dealing with contractors and listing the property and getting photos and video and doing all this stuff, it's stuff that I'd rather not do. I'd rather go play golf. I'd rather do XYZ. I'd rather be with my family.
Yep.
But when I get that 5% reward, it's greater than anything, because what it does is it allows me to make a ton of money, but it more importantly, it gives me more time.
Yeah, that's what we don't get back.
We don't get back time. So now I'm able to do the things that I like while having a successful career in real estate, just because my mindset switch and working as hard as possible on my craft until I've been in a position to, you know, start delegating and start building a company, which is why I thought this was a great podcast to have you on.
Great
podcast. I wanted to pick your brain about it for sure.
This is nice. I don't have to prepare for anything.
Yeah. I was like, how do I craft this so we can just walk in and go? I want to switch topics just a little bit. I'm noticing as I go on and on that people are kind of the most important thing in any business or in just in general in life. If you're around good people, you're going to do better. Like you are who you hang out with, kind of thing. So, you know, what I wanted to ask you is something about like hiring. Okay. And when you're going through interviews, what are like, can you tell right away if someone's going to be a fit, like within a minute, or does it take you some time to understand, or, you know, kind of talk to the first initial when you're interviewing a realtor to come onto the brokerage?
So I think this is an ever learning process. I don't think you ever figure out and have the right philosophy or standards to hire the right person. I go through 2 different interview standards because I interview for the admin side and I also interview for the real estate side.
Yeah.
So I'll go over really quickly to the real estate side.
Yep.
I know real quickly on the real estate side if they're going to be a fit. I know within the first 5 minutes. And one thing, if you're an agent and you ever want to join this brokerage, I'm going to tell you should watch this little segment because
clip this.
This is my one non-negotiable, Mike. Okay. And interviewing, I would just say, it's funny. I talked to Tom. He's like, have you interviewed thousands of agents? I'm like, no, bro.
Yeah.
But I've interviewed, I would say close to 100 agents in my day, which is quite a few in our marketplace. And I've narrowed down one thing in the first 5 minutes that if they bring up, it's immediately they are not qualified.
So this is the red flag.
This is the one red flag that in the first 5 minutes that
this is good. So I can't wait to hear.
Commission.
If
they bring up commission,
okay,
within the first 5 minutes of my first conversation with them, I know right then and there they are not the right fit for this brokerage because money-driven agents, they don't change their outlook because if they're looking for money, there's all these other things that they also want to create more money for them, which is, don't get me wrong, money is what drives our business.
Sure.
But if you're in it just for the money and the first conversation you're going to have with me is commission, that you're not the right individual.
Yeah.
All the people that we work with in this office, the first 15 to 20 minutes of any of these conversations was about growth, was about going to the next level, what obstacles they're dealing with, how they can get here from there. What they're dealing with currently at the situation they're at. Nothing is around money. Yeah. Money's usually the second conversation that you have when I meet them again. And that is, to me, those are the people that have passed. Yeah. So I really deal with the commission talk and then really their baggage. I'd like to figure out where they're at and what they're doing. People get nervous when they're talking with you, when they're interviewing with you, and I know that. Sure. And they tend to tell you things they don't necessarily want to tell you, but they just end up telling you because they're nervous.
Right.
So if you ask somebody what their production is, what they've done this last year, and where they think their gaps are, that's you're going to find out if there's pointing, like blaming in their game. Yeah. So it's like, hey, what did you do this last year? I did $6 million in deals, but I don't have enough leads. I don't have enough this. If they gave me this, they don't show me this, and this, as opposed to if I'm talking with like a Chris and I was like, where were your production last year? Where were your gaps? He's like, well, I need to work on this. Yeah. I probably need to work on this. I probably need to hire an assistant, and everything's more focused on what they need to do and how they can better themselves as opposed to finger pointing about why you aren't successful, as opposed to because that always comes down to yourself why you're not successful. And if it's in the environment you're at, that's still your fault because you shouldn't be in the environment you're in.
You have to take responsibility for that.
You have to take responsibility. So agent, that is how I do that. Admin, completely different ball game. I literally put them through like a 5 or 6 interview process. Okay. And I'm still learning and getting better at the process for when it comes to admin hire. But I don't know if you wanted to get into that.
Yeah, just tell me maybe something like you just said for commission. Is there something that sticks out in your head like this is an ultimate green light or a red flag when hiring an administration person?
So talkability.
Can you explain that?
Yes. What I've come to find out with admins is there's 2 types. Okay. And it all comes down to every admin you're ever hiring needs to take the personality assessment. Okay. So you can understand where they fit in each category. Because if you have, and you'll see it, believe it or not, you're going to see people with my personality type, high D's and high I's, interviewing for an admin position. Yeah. I don't know. It's just not going to work out. So the conversations that you have with a person like me, they don't care about details. They just care, like, for example, they don't care about the wiring in this building. They just want the lights to turn on when they hit the switch. Yep. As opposed to if you're interviewing someone who's very analytical and operational, they're very low key. They're not like me. So first of all, when you're hiring someone that's not like you, you already have trouble interviewing them because you want to hire people that are like you. You want to hire people that are going to get along with you. Yeah,
that's a good point.
But that's not always what helps you get to the next level.
That's probably my biggest flaw. I think I just want to hire people I want to hang out with.
Most people, most people. When I first started this, that's why Rob's the last one who made it. But when I first started this, I hired all my friends. I had Mark Peckham, I had Rob, I had my cousin, I had my sister. Like I was like free for all. Yeah. But for agents that works out, but when it comes to the admins, I really had to go through the personality types and what personalities execute certain things at a high level. And the operators and the analytical ones, the ones that don't talk very much, the ones that are just, wanting to push paper and push numbers, those are the ones that I really wanted for the operations and admin positions, because that's what I'm not good at.
Yeah.
I don't know how to put a spreadsheet together, but I know what I want on the spreadsheet.
Yeah, for sure.
And I was hiring people that I would say, hey, let's figure this out together. We'll go take a class on Google Excel, and and why am I trying to get people to learn this when I should be hiring people that already know how to do this?
100%.
So, and then also the reason I do so many different interview processes is because I'll interview them one time, somebody will interview them the third time, we'll interview them someone else the fourth time, and then the last time we'll throw situations at them. If this happens, what would you do? If this happens, what would you do? Okay. And then after that, we let them know that we'll let them, they're eligible. We're going to send them a letter of whatever you call the letter of intent.
Yeah.
And another reason I go through the long interview process is because I want someone who really wants to work here.
Yeah.
If someone cuts out midway through because another job interview happened, I'm fine with that. Go to another job. I want someone that really wants to be here and will put in the time to interview for 5 times, which is probably 2 weeks.
All right. Okay. Well, those are great answers, man. I really enjoyed that because I'm going through that myself and trying to build out.
It's hard.
It's hard. Yeah. And I've done the same thing as just hiring my friends and trying to get people that are close and cool with me. And honestly, it's harder.
It is.
I'm like, can I say something to my friend that I wouldn't be able to say something that I just hired? And
it's hard working with things get sticky because you don't want to be honest with them sometimes when they suck or they're slacking off or they forget something. You would talk to anybody else. I will tell you one thing that I did learn from Tom Ferry a long time ago when I first started doing this, and it's a really quick formula that he told me, because he always talks in the value of people in A, B, or C. You have A players, B players, and C players. Mm-hmm. And he always talked about you need A players working around you. You need A players. If you're not surrounded by A players, and he's like, A players don't like to work with C players because they don't have respect for them, and C players don't want to work with A players because they're always trying to
too intense
be something that they can't. And he's like, so you need A players. And at that point, I was like, how the fuck do I find A players? This is insane. I've been hiring people for the last year, and I find F players. What am I missing, Tom?
Yeah.
And he told me this secret a while ago, and it made so much sense. So I will tell you this: as you grow and as you continue your business, everyone's going to be stepping stones. Okay. Yeah. So, and you learn from the people that have worked from you, from how the amount of the level of the bar is raised by what they brought to the table. And you're not always going to initially, when you start a business, have A players, because A players already have jobs.
Yeah.
They're already working with they're A's, A players aren't just sitting on their couch looking for a job. So you have to attract the A players. So what he taught me was, he said, what you need to do is you need to get really good C players. Okay, you get a handful of C players, okay? You coach them, you build them up to B players, okay? And he's like, B players work well with A players. Yeah. And he's like, and as this process grows, a couple C's will leave, but you've already attracted some B's, so you'll attract a B because you already have B's, because you already have elevated your C's. And he's like, and as time progresses, you're gonna have all B players. And at that point, you want all A players. So you're either gonna build up the B's to the A's, or you're going to attract the B's that you can already level up to A's. Uh-huh. So not every C is going to be able to get to an A, but you've built this process over time of where you're graduating until at the end of the day,
genius,
you have A's. So genius. In here, we have a lot of A players, but it wasn't always A players.
Right.
So I've learned that a long time ago, and it really does help.
That's the long game.
It's the long game.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to switch one more time here. I want to talk about social media and your strategy around it, because I know when I come in here, when we have our meetings, that you're doubling, tripling, quadrupling down on social media.
Yeah.
You have, a dedicated person to come in here and film everyone on certain days. You are posting like a madman. You are tagging. You are doing things that other people aren't doing in this space. And I think everyone knows that social media is the future, especially people listening to this podcast and people that follow, but the both of us. But what's kind of the big nuggets that you've taken away from social, and why are you pushing it so hard?
I look at social media as one thing. I run social media like I run a business. And the reason why I run social media like a business, I was actually on stage speaking a couple of weeks ago, and what I was telling, or my message to everybody, was, the reason I use social media for a business is because I want to be able to go anywhere in this world, anywhere in our cities, and people know what I do.
Yeah.
Because what we do as a profession, what we do as a job is we're supposed to be connecting with people and transacting more deals, connecting with people and helping them get to another level. Well, if I'm having to door knock and I'm having to go into places and I have to announce who I am and I have to tell people what I do, it's a completely different feeling and vibe as opposed to people just know what I do.
Yep.
So I use social media not to get deals. I don't expect people to call my phone and be like, hey, I want to sell my house, or hey, I want to join your brokerage today. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
It does happen.
For sure.
But that's not why I do it. So for example, this morning, Mike, it was crazy this morning. I'm walking my dogs. You know where I live, Pacific Palisades, not close to here.
Right.
And I'm walking my dogs and I'm walking past the driveway of a gas station. And as I'm walking by, this Range Rover stops, and I walk by with the two dogs, and I'm 10 feet past, and I hear Eric, and I'm like, what? And I turn over my shoulder, and he's like, Eric Crumbaker? And I was like, oh man, somebody knows me. In this area, people aren't supposed to know me,
right?
So I look and I start walking over, and he's like, big smile on his face, and he's like, do you recognize me? And I was like, and before I said no, he's like, Bo Drake, and I was like, Bo! I haven't seen this guy in 25 years, Mike.
Yeah.
25 years. We're not connected on social media. I don't follow him. He doesn't follow me. We start talking, and he's like, hey, don't you own a brokerage in Claremont? Aren't you doing all this stuff with real estate? I heard you're in LA. I heard this, that, and the other. This is a guy I haven't seen in 25 years who I don't follow on social media, and this guy knows every last step I've made in the last 3 years. That is why I have social media. So people just natching organically through what we're doing, how we're exposing our image and our voice and our vision and the high level people, it's exposing to people. So when I walk into a room or I'm walking on stage or I'm meeting someone on the street, I don't have to tell them what I do. They're already engaging with me, asking me questions about how I can help or what my opinion is on certain topics.
For sure. I mean, I've noticed that switch, and honestly, it's been since I came here and been posting, doing videos, and now doing a podcast. It's my exposure is amplified with my friends, my sphere of influence, my family members. They're like, "Oh my God, you're doing this, this, and this. You're flipping. You're a realtor. You're crushing it. You're crushing it." And now, now here we sit, doing my second episode of my podcast. So it's kind of
roles of switch. You're interviewing me. Look at this.
I mean, it's kind of surreal, honestly. So, it's just been a great journey, and it's just getting started, really. And I'm just scratching the surface of social, and I see it. I see it as if the further I keep digging, the better it gets.
Oh yeah. Oh, and so, we're same. I mean, as far as, we think we are, there's so much more we could be doing that we're trying to do. We're putting 2024, we're trying to get dirty in 2024, Mike, just so you know. I know what I see in our marketplace, and I'm just trying to, it's so funny. I'm not doubling down on content. I'm doubling down on structure, and I'm doubling down on the message, and I'm doubling down on really identifying the audiences. So it's no longer just throwing stuff up like I used to. Yeah. Now I'm getting really sniper, really shooting people in the head of exactly what I'm trying. So it's crazy what you're doubling down on, but you're always trying to perfect what you're doing in social media. And it's so much fun if you can use social media to your advantage, which is hard to do, to break through that for you to really see the fruitions. But once you do, it really makes you want to go so much deeper.
Yeah, no, it does. And, I've just been in awe of what it's been doing for me. And then I'm actually getting deals from it.
Yes.
I'm getting fixer-uppers. I had my friend call me and be like, hey, my mom's moving out of state. Her house is, not so great condition. And I went over there and I ended up buying it. So
I have some ideas, proprietary secrets. Yeah. But I have some ideas that I want to run by you too. I think would really help on social. I think some really cool things that you should start throwing into the mix.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear them. And then once we talk, I'll be sharing them. I'll be sharing some of the stuff that we do. And all right, I want to just wrap it up real quick, but I want to just get everyone wants to know about the market and your predictions for 2024. What do you think is going to happen? Talk about interest rates. Talk about what kind of agent, you need to be to succeed.
Well, we're going into the year of an election, so let's
Oh,
deal with
that's
that
right,
one
election
huge
year.
curveball right now. Predictions for this next year. I'm going to rewind. It doesn't matter what is happening this next year. It doesn't matter if the interest rates go back up above 7 or go back up above 8. It doesn't matter if it's an election year. It doesn't matter if inventory even gets tighter. This is a market of skill set. It's just that simple. And the agents that have the highest skill set are transacting. Money is being exchanged every single day, but is it being exchanged with your particular hands? And if it's not, that's where I think the skill set agent is taking advantage. Because they're able to provide the data, the clarity, the knowledge, the negotiations, all those small nuances that take years to be an agent to really understand different nuances of how to submit an offer, how to take a listing from 6 other agents that are being interviewed up against you, how to, circle prospect and get other listings around your listing, how to have great events to, be belly to belly with your clients, what to say when you're calling your people, of not just saying, hey, I'm checking in on you, like how you bringing benefit, how you're bringing value. So for this next year, despite what my predictions are, the skill set agents are going to thrive in this market. They just are. So those agents, kudos to you. Congratulations. Keep doing what you're doing. This is going to be a great year for you. For predictions of the market, I don't have a glass ball that I can tell you what's going to happen, and I can give you my honest judgment. I'm usually wrong most of the times in my life. I don't think much will happen, but I will say this. I think there's going to be a sweet spot for about 3 or 4 months that's going to be really, really hot in the real estate market. And the reason I say this is because I think Jerome Powell does not want to be a target during this next election. And if he has high rates and they're still above what's comfortable for an average buyer to purchase a home, then it's going to come down to a political stance. And he wants to stay out of that limelight. So I think he drops rates for a certain time during the election to allow people to try to buy homes, to feel good in the economy. So I think rates dip a little bit. I think inventory still remains fairly tight. I think inventory does increase this next year with the rates dropping a little bit. I know starts are really down right now. I think starts will pick up a little more. And it's going to be little changes and little curves and little turns, but I don't think anything drastic is going to happen in this next year. I'm not going to get into what happens after the election and who's elected and where it goes from there. I just don't think there's going to be a lot of change this next year. So if you have a business strategy and you have a business plan and you had a really good 2023, then you're setting yourself up for 2024. It's just that simple. If you are newer to the market and you've been in the last 5 years and you want to have a really good year next year, find the best agent that you can that's killing it. Hook up underneath his arm.
That's great
Follow
advice.
what he's doing. Take all the advice. Take the pay cut. Don't worry about the money. The money will come when the market changes eventually in the road. But what you've learned is so much knowledge that you can go out and do it on your own. So that's my opinion. That's my prediction. If I was an agent, I would do one of those things.
Yeah. And I just remember from our business planning, like preparing now in December,
You have to.
really to jumpstart your 2024. I mean, we posted a reel about our 2024 planning, but that was just an eye-opening experience. And, I've doubled down on what I've been buying up in winter for spring.
Yeah.
And, and regardless of the interest rate decrease, which is happening now, I was all in on that at 8%. And now the rates are coming down. Spring's around the corner. And I'm looking for a huge spring.
I think it's gonna be a great spring.
So
it really is. For a certain amount of people, it's gonna be great.
But I've been preparing for this since September.
This isn't you didn't throw lucky dice across the
wall. No lucky dice across the wall. Just I've seen it happen and play out over the years. And it's just like spring's the hottest time to sell, and so I've always liked to double down in winter to have those homes ready to list in spring.
Smart.
And I've done more than I've ever done before in purchasing this month, and I'm looking forward to a huge 2024. And if I didn't plan for that, it would never have happened. So,
well, with that, let me ask you a question. What is your prediction? I mean, it sounds like you're really gearing up for a strong 2024. So, what do you see?
For sure, a strong spring.
Okay.
I'm preparing for a massive spring where the rates probably stay around 7 and hopefully under, but
What's our absorption rate? Absorption rate still below 2?
No, it's above, a little bit above 2 right now, but it's nothing to write home about.
Okay.
So the inventory is still constricted, and we're probably going to stay there for a long time because it's not the 5 and 6% that people have their mortgages at. It's the 3 and under or the 4 and under. So, it's still a big jump.
Correct.
To switch a home and go into a higher mortgage at these higher prices. It's basically a death.
It is.
So I don't think there's going to be a ton of inventory. It'll probably creep up just a little bit with the decrease in interest rates, but I really do see a very hot spring, probably a hot summer. And like you're saying, there's going to be a political agenda in the background. So if any president wants to get reelected or elected,
correct,
they're going to need to, show that they have things going in the right direction.
Big time.
So I'm gearing up for a big 2024.
Me too.
And I think it's going to be a positive one.
Same.
Maybe small gains in the market, but that's how I'm underwriting it.
Yep. Same.
Yeah.
Same. It'll be a great 2024. It really will be. Especially in this office, it's impossible how it won't be a great year. So I'm with you.
All right. Well,
is that it?
Yeah, I think so. I really
that flew by quick.
That was a good interview, honestly. Thank you for coming on.
That was fun. Cool.
Thank you for sharing your knowledge about building the brokerage, and I hope a lot of people got a lot of good nuggets out of this. And
you guys,
appreciate you guys tuning in for my second episode, and this will be coming out soon, and we can't wait for the next one. So, signing off.
Cheers, guys.